Hi everybody, it's Natalie here. Welcome to my channel. Yeah, wow. So this is a reading for the 17th of May to the 23rd of May, including the new moon coming up on Friday. And for whatever reason, this week I'm feeling the round decks. Feeling those round decks. So we have the New Earth Tarot, one of my favorites. We have the Crystal Medicine Oracle. And we have the Wild Unknown Archetypes, which is a deck I have not worked with a whole lot, despite all my little tabs and things here that you can see. But I've been seeing some of the videos or parts of them online and thought, wow, I would love to pull that deck back out and mess with it now. So yeah, I guess that's how it all works, eh? It just kind of puts you back to like, wait a minute, I have toys like that. Why am I not playing with my toys? So yeah, we're gonna play with some fun toys today and do our weekly guidance reading. I should tell everyone, so I've been very absent, even more so of late, despite saying I would really intended to be more present. And I did want to address that real quick. The reason is because, you know, good and bad, emergencies have come up, and with end-of-life clients. I mean, not that death is ever an emergency, but when a client is not quite at that point, they're at the end of their life, but they're not yet actively dying, which is where a lot of my clients are actually, is just kind of in the place of needing guidance. It really can be an emergency, especially right now. So yeah, I've been managing 2 clients, both of whom have Alzheimer's, and neither of whom I'm able to actually see because they're in hospital or have had to be moved to a care facility and nobody can get in. So this is a tough time. It's a really tough time. And I'm spending a lot of hours on the phone with family members, offering comfort, a lot of time on the computer doing research, making phone calls and just getting answers, and negotiating things. So, there's that. And I also took on some teaching because I thought, oh, well, there's just nothing happening and I'm really getting nervous. And, my tarot readings and tarot work has kind of helped me carry things over and keep things going, but I've needed to add more work back in where it was available. So I went from kind of having a lot of time on my hands and just kind of managing, home and family, and friends, with stuff, to now, continuing those things and adding to that, some pretty intense situations with clients, so and their families. So yeah, and teaching is not that intense, but it is fun. At least that part is very fun, and of course, like, this is a lot of fun. So so that's what's going on, and I did want to just address that really quick. That said, let us move this delightful display out of our way for just a moment, so we can get into this box. So I keep I've reorganized my whole system of how I keep my cards. So wherever possible, I've been keeping them in their boxes, just so that I can see what I have. And thankfully, this one, I don't have to take it out of its little card bag. It's card keeper. So I like having it wrapped in its little pouch. It's so nice. Okay, so let's get Nat's fire hazard out of the way there. We're looking for the Fool. Here we go. So this is the Fool from the New Earth Tarot. I can never see because at the bottom of my screen I've got the control. Yeah, anyway, you know where I'm saying. So I'm always like, oh, I can't see my Fool. Where is he? Ah, there we go. So here is the Fool. And yeah, what a bleak landscape. Thankfully, the Fool is in this deck is holding the Earth in the palm of their hand. So they've got the whole world in their hand and a whole world of possibility. So we're going to shuffle them back in, and off we go. And yes, I am still wearing my apron because I've been working in my house. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. We're in the Wands pile this week, folks. I'm surprised. And there aren't very many cards here in this pile. That's so interesting. Okay, wow. So we are in the realm of the Wands and passion, inspiration, the things that move us forward in our lives. Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, in the U.S., anyway, the quarantine, right or wrong, unfortunately, it's become a political point, but it's been lifted pretty much everywhere. So there is movement. There is movement. So in the Wands, we're looking in the Wands pile. We're looking at career. We're looking at the things that inspire us. We're looking at our spiritual lives. We're looking at passions, the things that motivate us, the things that move us forward in our lives. I think I've said that at least once already. And any kind of problem or issue that comes up this week is going to be something we can solve through intuition. Yeah. Fascinating. All right. Well, we haven't been in that pile for a while. So this is going to be very interesting. Okay. Okay, so here we are with our little tiny circle. I just made a note to myself to post to Instagram because Kate Silver, I love letting Kate Silver know I've used her deck. We follow each other on Instagram, and I just love her to pieces. So I want to make sure that I post this because I know it'll mean something to her as well. All right, so the Fool, we've got 3. So 1, 2, 3. Interesting. Man of Wands. Very, very interesting. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of Wands. Lots of fire here. Very interesting. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be in Aries. Moon's going to be in Aries the beginning of the week. I guess starting today in through the first half of the week. Fascinating. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, good. 7 of Cups. Hmm. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 of Cups. One, two, back to the 4. So we have 4 cards this week. Very interesting. All right, so we've got, let me just double check this, and then we'll come back. It checks out. You just never know. Mistakes can easily be made. I've certainly made them. All right, so we've got the Man of Wands, the 4 of Wands, 7 of Cups, and the 2 of Cups. So I will be honest in saying that I have a bias looking at this. So I am going to go ahead and draw. I'm going to start with Archetypes. Let's go ahead and do that now. Excuse me, little ant. Thank you. I've got ants in the room. I try to find a way to exist with them peacefully and get rid of them peacefully, and discourage them from being here as peacefully as possible. They seem to like me an awful lot, so it's not going so good. I've had to become just ever so slightly ruthless with them. Okay. But I'm not doing poisons. And I'm not just going to flat out start smacking them either, so. Okay. So here we have our beautiful wild archetype cards. We're going to give them a little shuffle here. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, so I got really into shuffling because sometimes with decks that I don't work with as often or haven't gotten to know as well, which I would say this deck definitely is in that pile. I have not worked with it or picked it up much, hardly at all, since the first few weeks that I had it. I'm not even sure that I put up a video about it or anything. So yeah, I should maybe at some point do a video called Decks That I Have That You Have Not Seen Yet, because I think we'd all be a little bit surprised. But yeah, so I was excessively shuffling it, both with riffle. It's starting to riffle rather nicely, riffling and bridging, and then, overhanding, and one jumped, and I have not had any jumpers the whole time, so rather than choosing it the usual way, I'm going to let it speak. We got the Venom. So I'm feeling like maybe I want to open the book and look at it, but here's our first Oracle card. I think I will also go ahead and pull out Crystal Medicine, so we're getting a more and more complete picture as we go along here. So here's Crystal Medicine Oracle by Rockpool Publishing. It is a delightful, wonderful oracle. I actually really love it. It was gifted to me by a friend, and in part I kind of have come to treasure it because of that. It's been edged in silver. I don't know if that comes across, but I do kind of love it. Anyway, I'll quit. I'm going to start shuffling here. Okay, so here's the card we came up with. So interesting. And I gotta be honest, sometimes when you pick up a deck and you think about the deck and you think about cards that are in the deck and one pops into your mind, I have to be honest in saying that this one is the one that popped into my mind. Wow. Okay, so we're dealing with Really, we're looking at both sides of duality here this week, guys. Let's flip the camera around and go ahead and dive in. Okay, so this is a fascinating reading this week. Really, really interesting. I feel like we're looking at we're going to need to look at the fine line here. And I do feel, too, that if I were to bring out the fine lines cards, it would give us some version of what we're getting here in these two cards, which I will come back to. For the time being, we're going to go ahead and just bring these cards forward, so to speak, and just look at it. And I feel like we're looking at a double-sided coin here, and we're being asked to embrace both sides of it. Yeah. So to start with, the Man of Wands. So the Man of Wands in this particular deck, is an incredibly attuned spirit. We've got almost a magician happening here symbolically. Very attuned, very masterful, spiritual individual. We have this kind of oil lamp with the spiritual light indicating, the kind of potential enlightenment that this man has, right? So this is a highly creative, spiritually attuned, enlightened aspect of ourselves that is being brought forward. How we relate to that, right? And I'm going to say, I tend to read, most of the time, I tend to read these cards, by which I mean the courts, as aspects of self. And of course, self is not really gendered. It's got both genders within it. So if you're a woman, most women know this anyway, right? Because we spend all of our time as kids and adults relating to male characters in films and books, and we do it effortlessly. And yet, when I teach a literature class and it's a female character, or it's got a lot of female characters in it, I often get complaints from male students that they can't really relate, so they're having trouble with the book or whatever. Yeah, I know, me too. So I just offer that as an example, right? So as women, we do embrace this already. We know it's there. But yeah, that's where we're coming from, okay? Is looking at those, that very spiritually attuned, magical, accomplished aspect of ourselves, that is highly trustworthy, creative, and just a little bit enlightened, we'll say. Just a little bit enlightened. And kind of, full of infinite possibility. Now, the truth of the matter is, how we relate to that is going to dictate how the rest of this works, okay? So let's say, first of all, that we relate to this aspect of ourselves with open arms. We know that it's there. We're aware of it. We trust it. We understand it to some degree or other. We're at least willing to relate to it in a way that's comfortable, okay? Relatively comfortable and self-aware. That said, comfortable and self-aware, moving back into the world this week. A lot of moving back into the world this week is taking place, certainly in the northern hemisphere. So, yeah, I'm not sure about the southern hemisphere at this moment, actually, but in the northern hemisphere, we're definitely doing a lot of moving forward. Either way, right? Either way, we are moving through some kind of an initiation in our lives, If you've been in quarantine for 8 weeks and you're suddenly being able to move out into the world a little bit more freely, it's not going to look the way that it did before. you're going to want that enlightened aspect of self to be what leads you forward and through that, right? You know, this is an initiation, something on this side of that circle, right, is being released and let go of, and we're moving through that circle, through that initiation into something new. All right. And I'm going to say, you know, it's wands. So there is something, you know, spiritual, potentially artistic, but I really feel like more, you know, it's spiritual, and it's to do with the soul and to do with identity. It's the way that we are in ourselves and in the world. Okay. And that is changing. That is changing. How we relate to ourselves in the world and how we relate to the world itself is changing. All right. So as we move into the week, it is moving through, you know, a kind of portal and an initiation. So as we go, you know, as usual, right? We start here, we have the 2 in the middle, and then we have the ending card, and then often there are other cards in the middle. This week there are not. The other part of this, right, that sort of dictates the biggest part of the theme of the week, and 4 cards in this reading tends to be pretty intense, actually, you know, is a kind of cleansing. Okay, it's a cleansing. There is a lot of washing away of stuff. So as you go through this portal, you know, there is, on the other side of it, anything that's not necessary is going to be washed away and let go. There's a lot of purification, release, you know, the releasing of things, the letting go of things, and so forth. I'll come back to that in a minute. We're just going to look at the lighter side of it, right? We're going to do light and then we'll go dark. So, yeah, as that cleansing takes place, I don't know how well you can see it, but as things are watered very gently, very gradually, and purified, there's all this new growth. You see the new growth of the grasses and things there by the side. So, you know, as things are released, on, you know, let go of, washed away, purified, watered, nourished, you know, there is new growth that's possible. Okay. Then as that's happening, you know, we can expect it to bring renewal into our relationships. Something in our very relationships with other, you know, with our other, with a partner, or with a potential other, is transformed and changed. Okay. Like I said, we're just looking at the easier aspects of this. All right. Okay. So there's the lighter possibility. On the less light side of this, you know, supposing we do not trust, or we are not fully aware of this more enlightened aspect of ourselves, we may project it outward. And either depending on how we relate to it, it is either putting our trust in someone that perhaps, you know, outside of us, that perhaps we shouldn't. Someone that we view as an authority figure, or as somebody who is rather enlightened, but may not be. We may also, you know, not trust ourselves. You know, it may not even be a matter of let's say we don't trust anybody, right? Not being willing to trust other people. You know, if we're relating poorly to this, it may mean that we walk into our lives in the coming week not trusting ourselves, not trusting in the spiritual process of evolving, not trusting in our ability to discern, to know better, to make better decisions, to be, a force of good in the world. What if I'm not enough? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not helpful enough? What if I'm not loving enough or enlightened enough or helpful, whatever it may be, right? So let's just say, let's just call it relating poorly to this archetype within ourselves, all right? Whether we're projecting it outward as trusting, this can't exist in me, therefore I need to find it outside of myself and find it in someone else, and put my trust and in an authority outside of myself. Supposing that is the case, or that you simply are not willing to trust it in yourself or anyone else, okay? Moving through this portal into the world, instead of looking like a celebration, is going to look slightly terrifying and possibly just a little demonic, right? What's going to happen? What happens when I go out into the world moving forward? Okay? I'm going to say, if you put your trust into someone else or into some other authority and you go through this just assuming everything's going to be fine, the energy of this Seven of Cups will wash you away. It will wash you up. It will overwhelm you. All right? It will be a baptism by half drowning, so to speak. I don't know, if you haven't seen my Lagos video, this particular card, for whatever reason, is screaming Lagos at me. On every level. But it, the overwhelming nature of water, instead of this being a gentle process, it could feel like being dropped, heavily and washed over with more water than what you expected in terms of that purifying. In other words, it may not be a gentle process for you if you are not in a good relationship with this archetype within yourself. All right. And that includes, the projection of it onto someone else. Giving your power and authority away to an authority figure. It doesn't matter who it is. I don't care who it is. If they're human, they're human. They're not going to know any better than you, probably, on some levels. And really the biggest challenge we have in our lives as human beings is learning how to trust this authority naturally within ourselves. This is a big part of our journey as human beings, is to learn how to do that, how to take it in, how to create a really healthy relationship to our ego, to create a healthy ego so that we can embody our humanity with gentleness and care and love and compassion. So that as we occupy the earthly plane, which in Buddhism we refer to that as the Nirmanakaya, right? Or Nirmanakaya, the embodied, enlightened embodiment, right? If we can begin to do that, we relate to all of these things very, very differently. It literally will we walk through that portal. We know what we're walking through potentially. We don't know the outcome, but we know what it is that we're walking through, right? There is some kind of initiation. There's a change. We're going from 4, which is ultimately balanced, through that 4 into a place where it feels imbalanced because we no longer know what's what. To go from a 4 to a 7 and change elements completely is a big shock. That's a big shock to the system. It has the potential to completely put that fire out, and to purify with a certain amount of force and forcefulness. It can, and I think it can take us by surprise. It can definitely take us by surprise. Then we move into this 2 of Cups, right? So we have the Wands, and then we have the Cups. We have no Earth this week. We have no Earth coming up in our reading anywhere. Very interesting. And no air. Also very interesting. So two pretty passionate things. So this will calm down. We're going from a 7 to a 2, right? I always include I can't not read with a certain amount of, awareness of Marseille and just increasing numbers, decreasing numbers, all of that. It is going to calm down. So what starts with like a flamethrower going into the week or a big torch, it's going to be doused out and then it's going to calm down. All right. So we'll find ourselves in some kind of a nice little gentle pool here at the bottom at some point, where things rebalance. 2 is a wonderful balanced number. We've got the peace dove coming down here, bringing things together, love, support, being held in a safe space, finding solace in partnership, in whatever form that looks like, right? So that brings us to what we see in our 2 oracle cards, right? We've got the Venom, right? And this is an archetypal tool. So this is a card in this deck that belongs to the tools. Interesting. We've also got Beauty. Now, this is interesting too, all right, because Venus went into retrograde on the 13th. Okay, so Venus in retrograde is really not an easy placement for anybody. It tends to make it hard for us to see beauty. It makes it harder for us to recognize it both in ourselves and in our situation, in others, and so forth. Okay, so we may have a temptation to view, hold a lot of this perspective. And we're being asked to dig deeply into ourselves, right? Deeply into find out the Buddha within ourselves, to find where that beauty is. It's so interesting too that we've got these 2 waterfalls here. There's this water, there's a beauty that takes place in the purifying and the releasing of things. I'm going to say too, when we go through that process, it takes us closer into the heart. It gives us greater access every single time. It gives us greater access to the heart, to the wisdom and the beauty and the joy, of our hearts. And when that happens, it is easier to find the space and the love, that we can share with someone else, whether that's romantic love or whether it's compassionate, unconditional love, whatever it is, it gets deepened. Okay. But in order to find that, the truth of the matter is we're going to have to manage the venom, and managing with this venom this week is going to be interesting. Let's just take a look at what Kim Krans has to say about it. Time period. So it says here at the top of it, the poison, the curse, the toxin, right? Much to our dismay, the venom is always lurking in the shadows in one form or another. Its toxic presence may be found in our relationships, thoughts, speech, or environment. Thankfully, the cycle of purification and detoxification comes so naturally that it is built into our every exhale. We breathe out carbon dioxide, and the plants return it to us as oxygen. Okay. Archetypal venom is rarely remedied as easily, however, and it can come in potent forms and quantities that are deeply damaging to us and to the world. When the venom card appears, there is a harmful substance in our psychic realm that must be identified. Perhaps your words have a sting of poison about them. Perhaps a relationship is slowly draining your reserves. Acknowledgement is the first step. Change is the second. The remedy will reveal itself in time, and with it, forgiveness. Okay, so it's tough, right? There's a tough aspect that we're dealing with. I do feel strongly, this 2 of Cups here is Venus, the astrological, sorry, glasses wrestling back here. The astrological association with it is Venus in Cancer. We are dealing with any issues this week too that we may have of unworthiness, of not finding beauty in the world, of not finding beauty in ourselves, in our environment, in our partners maybe, not trusting the good in ourselves, right? Not trusting our own ability to be enlightened, And so at the same time that we've got to wrestle a little bit with this venom, and that's always thinking of ourselves as unworthy, not beautiful, really feeling a hit to our self-esteem. This is part of Venus in retrograde, by the way. It goes along with that territory. And I'm guessing that if it didn't hit us last week, it feels like this week it could hit kind of hard, right? We're going to have to work with that venom. Don't worry, you've got the self-awareness if you want to have it, right? You've got that capacity, right? You've got the ability to find that more enlightened beauty within yourself. It's there. It's really there. The focus is going, let this initiation take place. Be aware it's happening, because that awareness will help you. It will help you manage the venom that you find in yourself. I don't sense that this is not venom that's happening outside of us. This is our own, okay? This is something we have to take ownership of and work with. As we do, it will become, relax. It will be purified. That is part of the natural course of all of this. And there is safety to be found. There's safety, peace, and companionship and support to be found at the end of it. And we're going to need to find it here first. I feel like we're going to recognize it here first in the self, and then have some capacity to share it and offer it outwards. Okay? So very intense reading this week, but there's a lot going on, right? We've all got a lot going on, and the world's got a lot going on. So, handle your venom with love. Friends, I wish you all the best this week. I will be coming out with some videos this week, which are of great importance, and I'm excited to share them. So there will be some activity. I continue to do what I need to do for clients and so forth, and I will be as available as I can be. But please know that the absence is not because there's anything wrong, and hasn't been because there's anything wrong. It's just simply because I've needed to be available to others for other things. All right. Take care, and I wish everyone tremendous self-compassion for the coming week. All right. Bye.